Hi everyone, I'm Dom from Solida. Today we're looking at Microsoft Loops, which launched in beta last month and is positioned as kind of a Notion competitor. I've spent some time exploring it and just wanted to share 3 things I liked about it and 3 things I didn't, mainly compared to Notion. So first let's talk about what I did like about Microsoft Loop. Firstly, it's the connection to Microsoft 365. Its integration with Office files is a game changer. So what you can do is you can directly link Office files into pages, and you can also link parts of a page into components like what you see here. And just to give you an example, I'll turn this into a component. I can turn this into a component, and that makes it a kind of shareable snippet of information. And I can see who has access. I can copy the component. And what I can do once I've copied it is I can control some sharing settings to decide who I can share the link with, and then also how long I can share it for, and do things like add a password. And what I can then do is in another Microsoft app, I can paste that link. And at the moment, this function doesn't work. As I said, it is in beta, but basically I can't share this link with someone who doesn't already have Loop. So you'll see this person has Loop, and they can see the component, but if they didn't, then you would get an error message. So it's something to bear in mind, but it is definitely a cool idea and means that you can share parts of a page without having to share the entire page. The other thing I like about Loop is the mobile app. So what I like is that the new idea button is really prominently placed in the center of the navigation bar, which is a thoughtful design for quickly adding things, especially compared to Notion's app. So Loop's mobile app is slightly simpler and easier to navigate. You can see how I have all your pages in a list. You can create a new idea and just call this one new idea. And then you can enter some text. The kind of typing function is very clear and easy to use. And then it gets added to the Ideas tab at the top. You can then move that idea into a workspace proper or add it to your favorite. This is kind of similar to how a lot of people use Notion anyway, but this kind of has to be done with a workaround when you use the mobile app, either to have a kind of ideas database, which you then transfer somewhere else, or to use a kind of third-party app. So, for example, something like Instant Notion. Going back to the desktop app, one thing I really like is the ability that Loop offers to view pages within your workspace by hierarchy, according to the kind of workspace tree. So that's similar to what Notion has. But you can also view pages by activity. So here, this is the most active page in this workspace, and it gets moved to the top. At the moment, that's the only 2 sort options you have, but I think it's a really cool function, especially if they add additional sort functions later on. And now on to a few things I didn't like so much. So one of the things I didn't like is the advanced sharing options. So currently Loop doesn't allow you to create user groups or nuanced sharing rules beyond what you can control here by seeing who has access, and then what you can see when you actually create the component. But there's no way to see those settings that I showed you earlier unless you actually create a new component, copy it, and see the settings. Or with an existing one, just click that copy button at the top. I'd like there to be a more centralized way to view the sharing settings, and also a way to control sharing settings based on workspaces, pages. For example, what would be really good is an option to disable the creation of components on a specific page, because you might want to give someone access to a page, but you don't want them sharing it more widely, creating components, moving things around, things like that. That's all pretty standard in Notion, and is a really important way for businesses to kind of structure their workspaces and control the flow of data in and out. Another significant drawback compared to Notion is Loop's inability to create a database. That really limits the ability to store and view structured data, which is a feature that Notion really excels in. So at the moment, what you can do is you can create a simple table like this. But this isn't a database item. I can't click into this to open up a new page or anything. It is simply a table with rows and columns. You can create a task table, add names, add an assignee, so it does have kind of basic properties. But again, this isn't a database. I can't click into this. At the moment, that's all you can do, and that is okay for simple stuff. But for me, it's probably the biggest weakness of Loop because of the limit this places on how much data you can store in it. In terms of use cases, this is a huge limitation because it really limits you to sharing basic information and largely with other Microsoft users. The final thing I didn't like is the limited number of templates. So I go to create a new page here and go to the template gallery. There are currently 24 templates, and they're all made by Microsoft. One of the most powerful things about Notion is that they've opened up the creation of templates to the public, and that's allowed them to have a library now of thousands of templates. That would be really good for Loop to introduce, especially as they try and catch up as quickly as possible with Notion. Kind of opening up that creativity to the public, I think, would make a huge difference. 24 templates is fairly limited, and at the moment they cover some of the most basic or obvious use cases. Once you have created a page that you like, you can duplicate it here. So in that sense, you can create a template for yourself and populate it in other workspaces or send it to other people. Now, the best tool for you depends on your specific needs and the nature of your work. At the moment, though, I think the only use case that Loop trumps Notion in is sharing and organizing simple information between Microsoft users. It lacks the depth to compete on larger scale jobs like managing end-to-end processes for now. But if they continue to work on it, we could still have a powerful competitor to Notion, especially with that Microsoft 365 integration. That's all for today's video, and thanks for watching.